This is Rob. We launched the Education is Life podcast right before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So we have a few episodes that we're going to be talking about issues specific to schooling at home. This is the first one of those. Hope you enjoy. Throw out homework, worksheets, ominous buildings, hall passes, herds of students, grades, all of it. What would you build? If you start with the amazing thing that is a young person, how would you honor all of their strengths and abilities? How would you remember that this is about them? If Dewey was right, and education is not preparation for life, education is life itself, we need to do more than rebuild schooling. We need to rethink living. Welcome to the Education is Life podcast, where we're having honest discussions on the state of education, where it is, where it can be, and all of the stories in between. We recently sent out a survey asking parents of public and private school-age children how they are working through this school at home situation and what's working and what's not working. And one of the things I'm really noticing in the data and in some of the anecdotes that I'm hearing is that right now is about the same place we were when we started homeschooling while we were traveling. We're trying to do school at home in kind of its most traditional sense, where we're just going to replicate traditional school at our house. It was an uphill battle all the time. And after about 4 or 5 weeks of seeing what the kids were doing, we were like, is this even worth it? When we first started our trip, the idea is that we were going to homeschool for the balance of the year. So we started in February. We were going to go through whatever, June or middle of June, doing homeschooling in the morning and then go out and explore in the afternoon. After a month or so of it, it was probably long. We probably made it 6 to 8 weeks. We were like, this is stupid. We're done. Like, the kids don't need this. And you see kind of their learning and what they're retaining and what they aren't, and how it's like kind of like beating their heads against a stone to get them to do the drill and kill worksheet type stuff. And then in the afternoon, we'd go out and they're like learning Spanish. My 6-year-old daughter was memorizing the Peterson's Field Guide for Birds. They were diving so much deeper into the things that they were interested in. The speed at which they learned and the depth to which they retained it were so much greater than the stuff in the morning that they were being forced to do. And I feel like that's kind of that spot is where a lot of parents are right now, is like, is this even worth it? We called summer early, and we just did more stuff outside and more natural learning. What I found out since then is that the amount of quote unquote summer loss that happens is at a level that I think if you're in a traditional mindset, it really makes you think, okay, how can we get rid of summer loss? When I think the real problem is the things they're losing aren't because of summer, it's because it doesn't matter to them. And so it doesn't matter to their life. It's not relevant. It's not important. There is no purpose of it. And so when you don't practice it, you lose it. But if education is life, we are not giving them adequate tools for education. We're educating them for school. We're educating them to get a test score. We're educating them to get into college. And especially at the K-12 level, education is not about them at all. And they sense that, and as they get older, they start to build this like really strong wall between school and life that, we fight against as a school for kids to transfer in when they're a little bit older. We're like, hey, you're doing this awesome thing at home. Put that in the system and you'll get credit for it. Like, no, I don't want that to be a school thing. That's a me thing. I'm like, but school is a you thing too, right? This is education is about you, not something that happens to you. Unfortunately, that's just not the experience that most young people get. I feel like that's where people are right now in this school at home experience. A lot of them anyway, especially of the younger kids in that kind of same age range that we had, that kind of 7 to 10 years old, where they need some more direction, they need some good prompts, and if they're just getting stacks of worksheets, which is the equivalent of what we had pretty much, maybe with a couple online drill and kill tools like IXL or something, but it was 2 hours of just fighting every morning, and I think that's the place that people are starting to question right now, and so it's going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks to see what happens in terms of how many families give up on trying to do this school at home thing, especially in a state like Illinois where the schoolwork doesn't technically matter. It can help improve your grade, but it can't be graded in a way that harms the scores you already had. So if you like what you're hearing, or you don't, and you want to come on and talk about it, go ahead and visit greenfieldsacademy.com and let us know that you want to be on the podcast and you want your opinion to be heard. I'd love to hear from you. So one of the things I've noticed on the survey too is about motivation and how motivated the students are to get their work done. And in traditional schools, looking about a 2.29, which a 2 score was most days are a struggle. And so I think that's also one of the challenges that you see in terms of compulsory education, where when you can get them all into one room and they can't leave and they have to ask to go to the bathroom and like, you need to get this stuff done. That's one way to help kids get through the work that quote unquote needs to get done. But when you put them in their home environment, in that compulsory nature of it goes away, finding that motivation to get your work done isn't there because you don't find the purpose for it. It doesn't relate to your life. It just feels like busy work. And that's a really hard thing to motivate people to do in a non-compulsory environment. And so I think that's going to be a thorny spot as this wears on over the next weeks and months. I think one of the reasons why our young people have made an easier transition to school at home is because of the skills they were building up during regular school time, whether that is student agency, where they're getting to make choices about what they're working on and where they're working on it, which is the same thing that's happening now for everyone in the school at home, or whether they're more real world, relatable, exciting, purpose-driven projects that they're working on, where the things that they get to do are create governments and figure out how those interact with other governments in the world and learn political models that way, or dive into what are they really interested in, curious about, passionate about, and helping to guide them down a path of getting deeper into the things that they're really interested in a way that ends up with something that they can share with the world that adds value. Or for the youngest kids, where it's like, hey, you get to make your own puppet show about your own story. And so lots of voice going on, lots of agency that they've been practicing at school in terms of making choices that are important. And that sometimes, at Greenfields, they'll fail. They won't get their goals that they set for themselves done. And then we reflect on that. Okay, what do you need to do differently? Is it how you set yourself up? Is it the types of goals you're choosing to do? How are you prioritizing the work? Those are the skills that we work with them from kindergarten on up. And so they've already got those skills. So it's not anything magical about the online tools that we have or their facility with a computer. It's about their mindset and the skills that they've developed through our program. Yeah, one of the things I see going on around social media and some different news stories is that parents really need to cut themselves and their kids some slack during this time, just not expect that things are going to get done in a way that they're used to making sure that things get done. I think the challenge there is that's a pretty unsatisfactory answer as a parent, where like, what do I do with that, right? Where it's like, okay, my kid's going to be on screens all day, or but you have the real demands of needing to get your work done oftentimes, or needing to find a new job and find some way to bring in money during this pandemic. And you're likely not a subject matter expert. So to be a math teacher, to be someone who has all of the answers to the questions, just is not what your training was. The difference for our parents and our model is that we don't expect the adults. In fact, we don't want the adults to answer questions. We want them to ask questions. And so I think that's something that as parents, all of us can really work on more. Instead of trying to be the source of all answers, how can we really help each of our own kids learn how to learn how to be, and learn how to do? And what are the questions we can ask them for that? So when I get asked, hey, something about imaginary numbers or something that I don't remember anymore, right? I don't have to go and research imaginary numbers. We walk through the process of how to find out that answer for yourself. Where do you think we can start? How do you think we can get there? And you do it for the first time with them. And then the next time you ask them, hey, remember when you were stuck on this? What did you do to solve that? And you start to build up those learning skills, which I think, especially not just in school right now, but I think in society, and this pandemic, I think, is a huge, outside of the normal curve of where the future is going. But that ability to learn and unlearn and learn again, I think, is going to be so important going forward. And so those learning skills and those questioning skills are really important right now. And those are the skills I think all parents can help their children work on during this time, and not feel as though they need to be a history instructor and a math instructor and a writing instructor, all these different types of teachers. They just need to be someone who can ask questions that are going to help their kids learn to ask themselves those same questions. And I think that's not only going to help them get through school at home now, it's going to help them through life. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe and tune in next time for a fresh new episode of Education is Life.